There is a new hypercar on the market, and it comes from Viritech, which is a UK-based company that specializes in hydrogen powertrain. So it's called the Apricale, and this is actually the production ready version. Even though it's called a concept, there's just going to be some minor tweaks to this design. But when I saw this design, I thought it honestly was a Koenigsegg when I first saw it. So we're going to compare the two and just see what Pininfarina has done here. Have they taken a little bit too much inspiration from the Koenigsegg when they designed this, or is it a standalone design in its own? We're going to compare the front, side, and the rear. I'm going to show you just how much these two cars are alike. So first, some spec and tech of this Viritech Apricale concept. It weighs 1,000 kilograms. It has 1,073 horsepower. 0 to 60 is less than 2.5 seconds, and a top speed that will exceed 200 miles per hour. The targeted range for this hydrogen car is 350 miles. It will launch in 2024 with a price of $1.8 million. I've seen a lot of concepts like this, the hydrogen powered concepts. I don't think we have a hypercar, hydrogen car yet in production, so I'm gonna take this all with a grain of salt. Before we go any further, I'd like to introduce you to today's sponsor, Fume. I know how hard it can be to quit nicotine. I've never really been a smoker, but in Sweden we do have these tobacco pouches called snus, and I was seriously hooked on those while in the military. Quitting a habit such as smoking isn't easy, but Fume is on a mission to help do just that. Just have a look at all these 5-star reviews. Fume is the natural inhaler designed for a better, safer, and natural way to quit cigarettes. It's a no smoke, no vape, and no nicotine replacement for the hand-to-mouth habit of smoking. I'm 100% on board getting people healthier in any way I can. And in addition, just look how beautifully packaged this product is. Fume creates handcrafts wooden inhalers and uses cores infused with plant oil studied to curb cravings. I tried the Fume myself, and the flavors really does have a nice punch that you can feel in the back of the throat. You get flavors such as peppermint and conker with minty notes to stimulate menthol cigarettes, and other flavors like cozy chai and lemon berry bliss for a sweeter experience. All flavors are 100% natural with zero harmful chemicals, artificial flavors, or nicotine. Whether you're a smoker or ex-smoker who still struggles with cravings, Fume is the perfect tool for you. So head over to breathefume.com/Bembly and use promo code Bembly for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order when you head to breathefume.com/Bembly and use code Bembly. Thanks to Fume for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the redesign. Let's jump into Photoshop here and let's have a look at these designs, because it really has a lot of similarities between the Apricale up here. Then we have the Koenigsegg Jesko. I decided to pick the Jesko here as an example for this comparison. So this is a Pininfarina design, and I've always been a fan of Pininfarina. I think they do beautiful designs, and this is also very nicely done. However, I think it lacks something, that extra special spice of Pininfarina. It looks maybe 5, 6, 10 years old already when I look at this design, and a lot of that has to do with the front end graphics. This is a very typical placement and shape, for example, of a headlight, and it feels like it's a very safe design, this car. And then we have these big massive fenders on both sides, creating this very muscular shape in the front end, and a pretty, you know, typical standard looking lower part of the front end with this spoiler or these intakes right here. It looks like we've seen this before, and that's what I mean when I'm saying that. I feel like this lacks this Pininfarina spice that I'm used to seeing. For example, the 458, one of my favorite cars of all time. I think that was the height of Pininfarina and Ferrari design, and this doesn't look as special to me. I'm going to show you exactly how much alike these are when we look at the side view, but looking at the front, we still have a lot of similarities here. Yes, the front end, the lower part of the Apricale looks different here from the Jesko, but the overall proportions look very, very similar. You have the same kind of fenders, beefy fenders in the the Jesko right here, I think actually this Jesko looks more like a refined design than the Pininfarina design Apricale up here. And that's saying something, because it's Koenigsegg. They're not a huge company, but I think they've come a long way in their design, and they're finally starting to really nail their identity when it comes to graphic design and proportions. I've always thought that these headlights on the Jesko, they look a little too small maybe. I want to kind of enlarge them a little bit, but as you can see, the shape of the headlight still is more innovative than the shape of the Apricale up here. That's just my opinion. Now let's have a look at side view. This is where it becomes really interesting. It feels like Pininfarina was always like side-eyeing the Koenigsegg when they designed the Apricale. That's what it looks like, because look at these lines here, the key lines of the Apricale up here. We have this shoulder line going right here, dips down in the front end, it kind of dips in this area, and then we have the greenhouse. Look at this greenhouse. It has this visor design that is almost trademarked to Koenigsegg. It's like you can take this greenhouse and kind of apply it onto the Jesko and you won't even notice a difference. We do have this difference here though. If you look at the shape of the window in the back, it dips down right here instead of going up like we have in all Koenigsegg. It goes up right here, and it also has this wrap-around visor design, and it also has the same kind of treatment of the windshield wiper being centered. That's not unique for Koenigsegg, but that's also one of these details that kind of adds even more likeness between these designs. Now looking at the Koenigsegg greenhouse, you have the same line, almost an identical line, this eggshell top part of the greenhouse. And in addition, looking at this wing right here, this is also a very similar detail between the two cars, even though the Jesko Absolute right here, this is a top speed one that lacks this massive rear wing in the back. We have this fins sticking up in the rear, similar to what we have in the Apricale up here. Moving further down on the design, we have this line on the Apricale, which I really like. I also like the two-tone. This seems to be like a Pininfarina color at the moment. They have it in the, I think there was a Battista or something that had a similar color to this, like two-tone. It looks very cool. It kind of brings some futurism into these designs. But then we have the same similar line on the Koenigsegg down here. It's not exactly the same, but it still feels like, you know, they took a lot of inspiration from what Koenigsegg currently do into their hypercars and applied it onto the Apricale up top. The wheelbase is of course a little bit different since we have an internal combustion engine in the Jesko right here, but we don't have that in the Apricale, so you can play around more with the wheelbase and kind of have less overhang in the rear, for example. But I think this long overhang in the Jesko actually helps with the top speed stability like we have in the Speedtail, for example, and this new Pagani that came out recently as well. And this continues in the rear view. It's the same kind of story here. I'm not sure what the brief was from the company to Pininfarina when they designed the Apricale up here, but you can still see that the treatment of the rear end, if we just remove the graphics, for example, this honeycomb texture right here in the rear end, and just focus on the shapes, they still look very, very similar. We don't have this wing like we have up here in the Apricale between the taillights, but you do kind of have something similar on the Jesko that is not the Absolute, they're just normal Jesko, if we can call it that. But here you can also see these top speed fins on the Apricale. They are a little bit smaller than they have on the Jesko. I do still prefer the Jesko design because they are straight horizontal here. Here they are dipping down a little bit, and I just think that I'm always surprised when I compare current modern Koenigseggs to current hypercars, and just how far Koenigsegg has come in their development, not just in the design and all these chamfers here. It looks like a grown-up design now, and it doesn't look like a kit car like a lot of cars from Koenigsegg did in their beginning, which is normal for a startup company. Now I feel like they've come such a long way in their design, but also in their technology. It's such a small company, it makes me proud of Sweden when I think about Koenigsegg and all their accomplishment in design and also in the technology part. So what do you think about this Apricale design? I think it's a cool looking car. I think maybe Pininfarina went a little too safe here and took too much inspiration, specifically in the proportions from the Koenigsegg. But then you have to think these are hypercars. These are cars that are supposed to be some of the fastest cars in the world, and that will also have a big impact on how you can design the car. It kind of gets a lot narrower when you're trying to reach the upper limits of what's possible. Then a lot of engineering comes in favor of design, and I think that also has to do with the shape of these cars and a reason to why they look so similar. Overall, I think Viritech is on a good track here. I think they're doing something really exciting, and I have a massive respect for the company for putting out a car like this. Hydrogen power, 200 miles per hour, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds, $1.8 million. Now the question becomes, will they actually be able to put this into production? I hope they will, because we need more cool cars like this from almost independent manufacturers. I think that's a exciting time to be in. So well done Viritech, and well done Pininfarina. It's still a good looking design, but maybe they lost that Pininfarina spice in this specific car.